This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is sponsored by isolved. Welcome to PeopleTech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer. Today, I'm joined by Opal Wagnac, isolved's Senior Vice President of Market and Product Strategy. With all the AI solutions being offered to HR, how do you tell what's real and what's sales pitch? That's one of the things we'll look at. We'll also talk about how the AI market is maturing, roadblocks customers face when it comes to implementation, and what customers are thinking about. All on this edition of PeopleTech. Hey Opal, welcome. Let me start by asking you about the state of AI today. How can HR leaders determine what's hype and what's reality?
Well, that's a very good question. What's interesting is that there's a lot of AI washing, going on. And I think we don't really have to blame the state of technology right now. We can actually blame the movies. All right. The movies started out with, you have that, you think of AI, you think of like the Terminator, or you think of that cute robot Sunny with Will Smith starring in that movie, or you think about, hey, Vibranium and Black Panther. You think about all of the art of the possible, but we also know that that's not AI. However, the movies definitely created an entire narrative about it too. So now here we are actually using or looking into artificial intelligence. And I think that the state of AI right now is doing a lot of cleanup. To pretty much reverse that narrative that Hollywood created, and now actually giving it a little bit more practicality or practical understanding. And so it's interesting that we live in this very dichotomous way where at home, we're totally fine with AI. As a matter of fact, I say to Alexa, I need to put new paper towels. Or if I'm on Netflix, I don't search. It's recommended to me. Like Netflix knows that I like period pieces with a strong female protagonist. Right. And it never really disappoints. And it's learning over time if my mind changes, about introducing some other things. I'm into drama or any type of like thrillers nowadays. So I feel that especially at home, we're very much accustomed to understanding that augmentation of making my life easier. However, at work, we're a little slower to adopt, or we're a little bit more risk averse. But I definitely see that there is a lot of improvement in a very short amount of time. And I say that to say because of a lot of the advancements that have been taking place in our personal lives is really pushing the boundaries as far as what we can expect in our work lives.
Now, AI has been around in its current form for about 2 years. Which is when ChatGPT appeared. Are we approaching, or are we any closer to being in a mature market, meaning a time when there's more attention that's being paid to adoption as opposed to development, and more attention being paid to training than was before?
Yeah, I can even go even further than that, because like ChatGPT, that's generative AI, right? So that's like another installment, right? So if we even go back to, let's say, 2012, when predictors started to come onto the scene, you could predict retention. What do you mean by predicting retention? And now you can't find an HCM vendor that doesn't have a retention predictor. Something that's looking to see, or coming up with some type of scoring algorithm to provide some type of analytic, about where you are or where you might be going, or if you're for flight risk or so forth. And so I definitely can see that there has been several installments over the years of AI. And now going into generative AI, like you mentioned, ChatGPT, I definitely feel that there is a lot more that's being added into development. However, the maturity phases of it are much, much shorter, simply because I think the pace of innovation is so much faster. where it's faster than we actually are even humanly capable to be able to receive it and understand it and so forth. By the time you understand it, it's already moved on to the next thing. So right now, what we're at, ChatGPT, 4.0 now? You know, and then so you're like, wait, what happened to 1.0? I was like, oh, you missed it, right? And so just even seeing that how much of that type of development, I feel like development and training are definitely merging. That's the beauty, I would say, also of AI, because AI understands that it's constantly having to learn. So as long as learning is always a constant thing, that's where machine learning comes in. That's actually the proof point that AI even exists. I think similarly, as humans, we also can understand that this is also going to be a constant thing. So there's always going to be some type of training or some type of development. No one can really be in a place where they can say, all right, I know enough, and I never have to learn again. And then guess what? The technology is going to change yet again. And then here you are entering into some new technology, and it's already on the 8.0 version.
Right. So do you think that users are keeping up with all of this change?
Some are keeping up, but in a very stealth way. Like it's when I say stealth, I mean, like, if I didn't tell you were using AI, you wouldn't have noticed. Right. So like, or even for like my own children, my children will never say, oh, what type of AI solutions do you have? They will never say that, like they don't know that AI is there, but they know the absence of AI. Like they know, like, wait, what do you mean? Like, this is not recommending, or the search is like flawed, or, things like that. They understand like what's not optimal, because they are native AI. They're not just native digitals, they're native AI digitals. And so even understanding that, I would say that the AI is going to become more of a baseline, really no different than, I think it was Stephen Eng who said like AI is the new electricity, right? And so electricity, I wasn't around when it was discovered and people did wiring for buildings and stuff like that. I wasn't around for that. However, it did have its own maturity curve where people walked into buildings and was no longer lit by candles. Or people like, wait a minute, out of the ceiling, there's lights? Like, what is this? Or people thought it was like, oh, it's the apocalypse. It was that level. And now you walk into a building, you don't ask to see, do they have electricity? It's pretty much assumed, right? However, in my lifetime, I did see how the internet definitely took off, where I work for a SaaS company. So you think about it, the company I work for probably wouldn't even exist or be selling a very, very different product. It's pretty much assumed that the internet is there. Like, you don't really even walk into a place and ask, do you have internet access? You pretty much ask, what's the Wi-Fi passcode? Like that, or what's the Wi-Fi that I need to connect to? It's already assumed that it's there. And I believe that, of course, that was a much shorter maturity window than electricity took. Electricity took a lot longer. Internet was much shorter than that. And I can believe that AI is going to be very baseline very, very soon too. So I think the maturity curves, especially as innovation continues to mature too, they get very much shorter and shorter, to the point that adoption is not necessarily one of those things that we're really paying attention to. It's just one of those things. It's like, it's being introduced. So everyone who's using Alexa, they didn't ask them like, hey, what about AI? Or you weren't asked any questions about AI. You just say, here's a new technology, and then you just started using it. If I told my mother that she was using AI, they're like, I am, so we might be looking at it as like how we would adopt a new technology, but I feel that the more adoption is more played in a stealth manner, we're not even going to be able to truly understand the signage on adoption, so to speak.
Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back. teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by Fifth Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Now, what about customers? And in this case, in the case of isolved, it would mean employers, the people who are buying the applications that include AI. Are they becoming more comfortable with the whole idea of AI and comfortable with its potential and understanding of its limitations?
You know what? Absolutely. I definitely can see here at isolve, we run a lot of our own surveys, especially with our customer base. And, having 177,000 customers, you learn a lot, right? And so we definitely can see that AI has moved beyond its experimental stages. So in one of our reports, we saw that 81% of HR professionals at companies use AI tools on regular daily tasks. And so it's not until we actually start to uncover what are the tasks that you're using that we are able to share with them, hey, guess what? That's AI. And a good example of that is the retention predictor. Retention predictors have been around since 2012. And now it's pretty much a mainstay in HCM solutions to the point that people are actually recognizing and seeing as a score that they want to pay attention to. So right then and there, that is actually them using AI. There's also others where our customers are using things, especially in the terms of recruiting. If you imagine you put a job posting out there and you get hundreds of hits, it's so much, especially depending on the job market, it can literally be thousands in minutes. And, that's always good that you have that kind of draw, but who's going to manually go through all of those resumes and all of those applications? Very quickly, probably you get to a resume number 10, you start leaning into your bias. Like, okay, yeah, I don't know what this is, or is this even a qualified candidate? And so when we start to even understand like what humans are good at and what machines are good at, it's really a matter of making sure that the machines are augmenting that, what humans can do. So machines, they're very good at being able to process large volumes. They're very good at doing that very consistently, by having like defined criteria. And they also can do it very quickly, and they don't get as tired as quickly as I do. Right. And then you have those things like what humans are good at too. So I feel that the area of recruiting, it takes advantage of those things that machines are good at, being able to process and understand and do that type of candidate matching. Here's my job requisition. Here's my criteria. Okay, here's all the things, and being able to like really remove, I would say, identify within that resume, what are the skills, what are the experiences, and then score appropriately where they fall as far as being able to consider them a good match, a good candidate based on that criteria. And then here's where the human part comes in, the area we're good at. We're good at connection. You still want to be able to meet that person. You want to understand what's their sense of humor. There's certain things that don't really come across in a resume that you're going to need to be able to establish that. So humans are very good at connection. They're very good at having values, also expressing empathy. So we can really lean into those things that we're really good at and combined with the things that the machines are really good at and be able to have a very, very good product coming out. Not just the product itself, but the human as well as the machine really working together to come up with that product. And so the area of recruiting is one of those areas where we see a huge amount of benefit. So our customers using those solutions, such as like Candidate Match, or even being able to, how do you author the right job ad? And so just seeing things like ChatGPT type of functions where you want to be able to say, hey, type up an email for me that sounds kind of quirky and fun, but letting someone know that, I want to make sure that we keep our open lines of communication go. And so ChatGPT is able to do that. So by us leveraging that same type of functionality, we realize that oftentimes, especially in recruiting, it's not even about how well you can write a job description. It's really a marketing exercise to be able to attract the right candidates. So by leaning into something that HR may understand how to write a job description, like they know the qualifications that are needed. They know what benefits are going to be available for this job. They know a lot of, I would say, like the nuts and bolts of a particular job. Now imagine you being able to put that into a ChatGPT-like function and generate a job ad. And that job ad is like, I'm looking for someone to pilot this team. And, it's saying all the right words to attract. So it's really a marketing type of message. And then being able to do that. And if someone who doesn't understand, like, how do I punch this up so that people will want to, apply, right? We added that into our own recruiting solutions as well. So being able to give that, not only to be able to attract the right candidates, when the candidates come in, being able to score appropriately and process in large volumes. Many of our customers have seen about a 41% increase. It was a decrease in that time to hire. And so those jobs are being filled a lot quicker simply because they're leveraging AI. And it's not one of those things where they make a mention, oh, today I'm going to use AI. Like, it's not like that, but it's the more that it becomes more of a baseline part of your process. Now, if we were to rip it out, they would be upset. So this is give you an example of, like, especially those areas like recruiting, where our customers have definitely been able to embrace the AI solutions we've put to market.
Well, that actually leads to my next question. There's a saying I've heard: nobody goes to the hardware store because they need a 1/4-inch drill bit. They go to the hardware store because they need a 1/4-inch hole. And I'm wondering if all the talk of AI right now is kind of missing the point. Are people getting to a point where they're thinking about what needs to be done as opposed to what technology is going to do it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, but first, it is usually approached with the practical pieces, right? So looking at HR's job function today. So many of those HR professionals are looking at it. Wow, I spend about, I think one of our reports said that about 4 hours a day just answering repetitive questions, from the employees. However, you still want the employees to be able to have a good employee experience. And a part of that good employee experience, it all relies on connection. It all relies on empathy. It all relies on values. Remember, the things that humans are really, really good at. Now, imagine being able to augment that, where you're able to train an AI bot to be able to respond to some of those questions, because those questions come up, and they don't come up just only between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. They come up also over the weekend too. So imagine that you have something that can be there to not only just process at large volumes at scale, not only just based off of the employee size, but even the amount of questions that may also be coming in, maternity leave, and so forth. It can definitely elevate that employee experience, because it's now like HR is no longer this phantom, right? They can be able to get their questions answers, as well as if you work in a very, I would say, decentralized type of organization, where that store manager literally has to act also as that HR deputy, where the store manager, I'm here to manage the store, but they get hit with a lot of HR questions too. Should they also be the one that's using that should be that deputized HR agent? And oftentimes the answer is no, they're not trained, for that, but they end up being the one to answer a lot of those questions. By using some type of bot or being able to do that, everyone in that store can be able to get access to the same type of knowledge base, the same type of HR related answers to questions, and so forth. And so that is a lot of the practical pieces that HR tends to look at, how they can lean into the advantages of AI. However, I do feel that there's also opportunities. So now that I feel that AI is covering a lot of the practical bases, then comes the art of the possible, right? HR didn't get into, everyone I speak to that's in HR, even one of my best friends is in HR too, they didn't get into this business to push paper. They didn't get into this business to do all of the tactical things that they're being pressed upon. So we always talk about this, and we hear about, especially from analysts and influencers and the like, talking about focusing on more strategic initiatives, but no one has really painted a picture on what those things can be. So I think we're really going to be at a point where AI will give HR the ability to imagine the art of the possible. What are some of those things that you wish you could be doing, and make AI basically be a part of that particular journey?
So what are you hearing from customers about all this? That's the first question. The second part of the question is how do you work it into product development? But you're out there talking to people. So what are the interactions? What's the message you're getting?
Well, we get a lot of accolades from our customers, especially in the areas that's hitting them the hardest, such as like I would say the more transactional areas, like recruiting, places where people are really feeling the brunt of not having enough of I would say the labor force and all of the market forces that are coming down on them there. Also in the area of like payroll is also a great one too, where having that anomaly detection further upstream, having that understanding and be able to say, pump your brakes. You need to take care of this now, or else it's going to be a problem for you later on. Also in the area of just really understanding if there's some type of fraud to detect, right? So the area of payroll, if you imagine, of course, that's any type of money movement is going to be very, very sensitive, as well as a lot of the criminals will also try and intercept. And so a big part of that is that not only as a vendor, we're doing our part, but it's also important that our customers also do their part as well. So helping our customers with being able to do some type of fraud detection, or we've identified about 25 different types of markers or levers to be able to push or pull, things that they need to do to check and balance some of those things. Those have been well received, especially from our customers who may have had some type of issue, somewhere in their past. Another area of interest is definitely in terms of anything around talent. It's especially around like learning experiences. One thing about, especially for the multi-generational workforce, everyone has their own path. And we're no longer in that place where oftentimes many managers would assume that, oh, Mark, you're trying to you're going to come and take my place. You report to me, so I'm going to train you up to be a manager one day. And what if you're like, no, I want to be the chief revenue officer. How do I prepare you for that? Right. And so many people coming into the workforce, you can no longer assume that the people that are working in your team want to take your spot or even want anything remotely close to that. They may have other dreams. And so the entire like opportunities for learning, some may be outside of the domain and some things may be within, but it's really about empowering that employee to be able to understand what are their interests, what are their motivators, what are their detractors, and of course, being able to align the appropriate learning experiences with that. It's kind of like the same Netflix paradigm. They better not offer me up some anime. I will be highly upset. No disrespect to anyone out there who likes anime, but it better not be in my feed, right? But so similarly, you don't want to offer up a learning path or learning experience that's going to really detract people from wanting to even be there because it's not even a part of their purview as far as their interests go. So just even understanding those things. So like going from talent acquisition, payroll, even into talent management, I think we pretty much have gotten a very good grasp on different areas to be able to give our customers that leg up. And so those customers have definitely come back and said, wow, this is great. At the same time, they're also being pushed to do more with AI. And it's a pretty nebulous type of ask when it comes to that, simply because AI is already proven to help you with productivity in our personal lives. So they're also being asked, which ends up the question that they also bring to us is, what AI solutions do we have available today? What type of AI solutions will we plan on bringing to market to be able to make their lives easier? In what capacity? And how do they show up more strategically in those rooms?
Opal, it was great to meet you. Thanks so much for joining me, and it was fascinating talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate this.
My guest today has been Opal Wagnac, the Senior Vice President of Market and Product Strategy at isolved. And this has been PeopleTech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. We're a part of the Work Defined Podcast Network. Find them at www.wrkdefine.com. And to keep up with AI technology in HR, subscribe to Workforce AI today. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.workforceai.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer.